So I come from a pretty sports-focused family. My dad played in the NFL for 8 years. Played from 1990 to 1998. So most of my early childhood was like going to games or going to training camps, watching my dad on TV and seeing him play and everything. So that kind of left a pretty big mark on me and made me, from an early age, want to be a professional athlete, which is something that every kid I feel like has a dream to do at one point or another. But it was kind of felt like it was at least more real to me, and I always felt that that was something I really wanted to do. And after he finished playing in 1998, he started working as a strength coach. And a couple years later, and he was a strength coach for the Denver Broncos. So I grew up around strength conditioning my whole elementary and middle school life. Played football, was halfway decent, but like nothing super special. And as I got closer to high school, kind of realized I wasn't going to be big enough to continue to play the sports I enjoyed playing the most, like basketball and track, which I'd also done. And so I kind of dropped those, played football, and ended up starting wrestling in my freshman year of high school. And just kind of fell in love with the sport there. It was one where it wasn't so much built around your natural like physical stature. There was room for everybody within the concept of weight classes, and you could kind of work yourself into contention if you spend a lot of time on technique or conditioning. So really threw myself into wrestling over the 4 years of high school, and had the strength and conditioning background to where it was I always saw that as my edge and something that I got really interested in. So I was always looking for how to be a little bit faster, be more conditioned or stronger than the next guy, and just really put a lot of work into getting good at that. Especially once my junior year, when I identified that I wanted to go to West Point, I kind of doubled down harder on the conditioning, especially. So I got really into conditioning and into that's how I kind of ran into CrossFit. Was looking for ways to train to get ready for the military environment, and came across a video of Spencer Hindell doing a workout for a sectional back in 2010, and I started doing CrossFit going into my senior year. Was lucky enough to walk on to the wrestling team at West Point my freshman year in 2011, and I wrestled for all 4 years. I was a team captain, academic All-American, but every summer my focus would always shift back to CrossFit because I'd kind of fallen in love with just exercising and how it's structured to where there's pretty clear and set goals that are like standards and times that you can improve on. And I really liked being able to see my performance improving over time. So was always very into CrossFit as a training protocol in the off season. Also even during the in season, probably to the detriment of my wrestling career. I was like a little too focused on the fitness side of things, but just something I really enjoyed. And sometime during college, I think 2012, I remember watching the CrossFit Games and saying, I think if I take like a decade, I knew how much Army stuff I had coming up. I said if I took a decade, I could probably be a CrossFit Games level athlete. So I started saying Games 2022 and having that be my motivation. Finished wrestling in February of 2015, and immediately started going like full into trying to work to become a professional CrossFitter. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy because I was getting ready to commission. Commissioned as an armor officer in May 2015 from United States Military Academy, West Point. And I knew the schedule of lieutenant was pretty busy, but kind of said that was something I was going to go for anyways, even if it meant kind of not being able to do a lot of other things. And I lucked out into having a pretty good job right after Bullock that allowed me to chase the dream, and I made it to regionals in 2016. Performed halfway decently for it being my first try, and the next couple years had some decently big setbacks where I had a tank accident, lost part of my finger. In 2018, my unit 118 Infantry, we were in Bulgaria, didn't have a ton of access to training, didn't make it to regionals, but kept training throughout the whole time, all my LT years, and at Triple C last year, May of 2019, went to the Rogue Invitational, managed to qualify for the CrossFit Games, and last year in 2019 was my first CrossFit Games, and went and took 15th, had a relatively successful rookie year, and I'm kind of just looking to continue to build on that. I've always been pretty confident that no matter what the situation is, as long as my attitude remains the same as far as just really eliminating any other distractions that aren't related to pursuing my goal, I'm going to be able to get better no matter what the situation is. So it's kind of my thing for 2020 as well. There's a lot of stuff that's, potentially coming in the way of your ability to train or compete, but luckily being on the Army Warrior Fitness team, I have a lot of opportunities to chase that and represent the Army as well. So it's allowed me to stay pretty focused on the task at hand, and hopefully I can perform even better the next time I get the opportunity to compete.
Yeah, so just talk, your day-to-day life, the differences you see between you and your peers, to be able to get to that level of eliteness, CrossFit Games, over the past 10 or decade, whatever, making it here 8 years since you started.
Okay. So I think within my day-to-day, my routines are pretty malleable, but also consistent. And so what I mean is that like there's always a lot of variables thrown, especially when during my lieutenant time when I was down on the line, there was some days where maybe you wouldn't get off work in time to train, or you would have access to certain equipment, but you wouldn't have access to other equipment. Just like a lot of variables. So because of that, my life kind of still resembles that. Like I travel a decent amount, and I'm working out with a lot of other athletes because I think that's always a good way to get better. Kind of from my wrestling background, that's what folks do when you're trying to improve. You find the best dudes and you learn from them and get beat by them, and eventually like you pick up the tips and tricks that they have. But so I'm not like the most. I'd say my schedule's like not always the same. Sometimes I'll sleep in my car. Sometimes I'll end up sleeping on a friend's floor, or like things like that. Like I'm not eating the same thing every day because I'm not in control of all those at all times. But the end goal of every day is like I hold myself to really one standard, is that did I work like somebody who wants to win the games, because that's my ultimate goal. Like that's the only thing I should really be worried about. So even if the individual decisions of the day are different on a day-to-day basis, like they're all supporting that end goal. And I think that's kind of ties into like what I feel like makes me different from kind of my Army peers and from my like my competitive CrossFit peers as well. I'd say like consistency is the biggest thing for me in comparison to other Army peers. I think there's a lot of folks who are way better athletes than me, like in their college accolades will tell you the same thing. But I made a decision coming into the Army that I wanted to make the CrossFit Games at some point, and I think I've sacrificed a lot of stuff outside of fitness and even within work to make sure that I was like always in position to chase that. So that's like bringing meals out to the field or weights out to NTC and things like that. Just make sure I was always in position to do something that allowed me to fulfill that previously stated goal of making sure that I was always ending every day knowing that whatever I did that day was supporting my goal of winning the CrossFit Games. And then in comparison to maybe some other folks within the functional fitness community, I think my single-mindedness is what maybe separates me. So I don't have like a lot of other hobbies, and I think that's kind of true of anybody who's really pursuing it. But the level to which I obsess is not a healthy word, but the level like I focus and orient on my goal is definitely different. And I think in my travels and like going about and learning from other folks, I feel pretty confident in saying that like my lifestyle is like overall just completely tailored towards getting better. And when I see other folks like make concessions, that's something that like I try and learn from. Like if they're doing this and I've realized that that's a distraction or it's taken away from their ability to train, like I can learn from them and then apply it to my life. And I think I've not fully arrived at a final solution of how to best make a life that supports training and getting fitter, but I get a little bit closer every week, month, and I'm really happy with the results I've seen thus far. And I think it's going to, at the very end, lead me to a fulfillment of that, the earlier stated goal of like knowing that when my career is over, I did everything possible to win the CrossFit Games or become the fittest person, the fittest and most competitive version of myself. Like one of my goals has always been to maximize my own potential, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I win because that's like external, but internally I want to be able to finish, say I did things the right way, I put all my energy into it, and then no matter what the results are, I'll be pretty happy with it. So the consistency and single-mindedness are kind of the things that I always look back to. It always brings me back to that question, the standard I hold myself to. Did you do everything you could to be the best version of yourself today? Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you got any questions or anything you want to ask me or any other members of the U.S. Army Warrior Fitness Team, leave them in the comments. We'll catch you next time.